All right, today we're going to journey way, way back to the dawn of civilization, to Mesopotamia. But here's the thing, we're not just talking about a place on a map between two rivers. Nope. We're digging into an idea, a foundational myth, really, that shaped one of the very first great cultures on Earth.
I mean, think about it. It's one of the biggest questions, right? Where does all this come from? Society, laws, cities, the whole shebang. Did we just figure it out slowly over time? Was it some kind of lucky break? Or, and this is where it gets interesting, did someone or something give us a little push in the right direction?
Well, according to one of humanity's oldest stories, it came from the sea. Seriously, the ancient Mesopotamians, they believed that the actual blueprints for civilization, we're talking law, writing, cities, were a gift delivered from the bottom of the ocean by these mysterious teachers.
Okay, so we have to dive into this. Who were these teachers? Well, they were called the Apkallu, and trust me, their story is absolutely key to understanding how the Mesopotamians saw their entire world.
So the Apkallu, these were 7 wise beings, kind of part man, part fish, who literally walked out of the Abzu, this cosmic, primordial ocean that they believed existed under the earth. Their mission? It was handed down by Enki, the god of wisdom, and it was huge. They were supposed to turn early, primitive humans into a full-blown civilized society. They were basically the original superheroes of culture.
And get this, their names weren't just names. They were basically their job descriptions. You've got Uana, who finished the plans for heaven and earth. That's your master architect right there. Then there's Enmabuluga, who grew on pasture land. Hello, agriculture. And Enulilda, the conjurer of the city. He's all about religious structure. You see? Each name is a different piece of the puzzle. It's like a complete Civilization 101 curriculum, right there in their names.
So here's the really crucial part. For them, this wasn't just some fairy tale. It was the explanation for the real world they saw all around them. So let's look at the first massive gift they supposedly brought, the gift of order. We actually know about this thanks to an ancient Babylonian historian named Berosus. He wrote it all down, and he calls that first sage Oannes, which is just his version of the name Uana. And he spells it out for us plain and simple. These sages showed up and taught humans how to build cities and make laws. You know, the absolute bedrock of any society.
And what happens next? Well, you see the result in the real world. Right there, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, boom, the world's first cities pop up. Places you probably heard of, like Ur and Uruk. And these weren't just a bunch of huts thrown together. No way. They were highly organized hubs for religion, for trade, for power. And each one was centered around a huge temple, exactly like the stories said.
And that gift of law they talked about? You want to see it? Look no further than the Code of Hammurabi. I mean, this thing is incredible. It wasn't just a list of thou shalt nots. It was a super detailed legal system. We're talking over 200 laws that covered everything from business deals to marriage. It's the myth made real, literally carved into stone for everyone to see. All right, so that's order. But the gifts don't stop there. Because think about it, once you have a big, complex society, how do you manage it all? You need to manage information, you need knowledge.
And this is how they did it, with Cuneiform, the world's first real system of writing. And it's so cool because it didn't just appear out of nowhere. You can see it evolve. It starts out as simple little pictures on clay tablets, to keep track of sheep or bags of grain. But over time, those pictures become more abstract, these wedge-shaped marks, until it's a sophisticated script that can be used to write down incredible stories, like the Epic of Gilgamesh, which, by the way, actually mentions the Apkallu. Now, along with writing came another huge gift, math. And the Mesopotamians basically built their entire mathematical world around one single number, 60. So why 60? Well, it's just a fantastic number to work with. You can divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, so it's super flexible. And that's perfect when you're trying to measure pretty much everything, from a field of crops to the minutes in an hour. And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, that's neat, but what does it have to do with me? Think again. The reason you have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour, the reason a circle has 360 degrees, that's them. That's the sexagesimal system they invented thousands of years ago. It's not ancient history, it's literally on your watch right now. And this skill with numbers just supercharged everything else. Take their astronomers. These weren't just folks looking up at the pretty lights in the sky. No, they were serious scientists. They mapped the stars and tracked the planets with so much precision that they could actually predict eclipses and solstices. For them, these weren't just astronomical events, they were messages from the gods. So you've got these incredible gifts, order and knowledge, supposedly from the gods. So what did they build with them? What did this civilization actually look like? Well, it was massive, it was groundbreaking, and it lasted for something like 3,000 years.
I mean, just picture their cities. You'd see these unbelievable structures called ziggurats dominating the skyline. These were massive, terraced temples, almost like giant stairways to the heavens. And these people were brilliant engineers. They came up with ideas like the arch and the dome, things that would become the foundation of architecture for literally millennia.
And you gotta understand, this wasn't just one single culture that stayed the same forever. It was a whole series of powerful empires, one after another. First, you have the Sumerians. They're the ones who kick it all off with cities and writing. Then the Akkadians come along and build the world's first empire. After them, the Babylonians with their epic law codes. Then the Assyrians, who were masters of warfare. Each one built on the foundations of the last.
But here's where the story takes a really fascinating and kind of dark turn, because you have to wonder, was this gift of civilization a purely good thing? Well, later versions of the myth start to suggest that maybe, just maybe, this kind of wisdom has a dangerous side.
See, the earliest stories we have, they paint the Apkallu as these wonderful, helpful teachers. But stories and myths change over time, right? As the Mesopotamian world got more complex, so did their story about the 7 sages. A new, much more complicated chapter was added.
In these later versions, some of the Apkallu get a total rewrite. They become rebels. They didn't just teach humanity useful things like farming and building, they taught them forbidden knowledge, things they weren't supposed to know. And this, according to the myth, is what made the gods so angry that they sent the Great Flood to just wipe the board clean. And what happened to these rebellious sages? They were punished, banished to the underworld. It's an incredible story, and it sounds a lot like later myths, doesn't it? Like the stories of fallen angels who get punished for giving humanity knowledge it couldn't handle.
And all of this leaves us with a really deep question to think about. The story of the Apkallu, it starts as this amazing myth about how civilization began, but it ends up as a cautionary tale. It forces us to ask, what is the nature of knowledge itself? Is every discovery a good thing? Or do some gifts, some pieces of wisdom, come with a price that's just too high?